Welcome to the Dr. Leadership Show, where we take a look at how you approach your work and personal life and how we can make the most out of both of them. A weekly get-together where we get real about self-improvement and development as we all make this not-so-easy journey through life. Our discussions will cover ideas and concepts from how to grow your career to how to lead your family towards prosperity and happiness. We don't pretend to know it all, and the doctor is the first to be vulnerable, discussing his own weaknesses, both past and present. This is about growing together and having some fun while we discuss what is happening in the crazy world we live in and how to make the most of it. Let's strive for awesome together. Let's get after it. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Dr. Leadership Podcast. Hope you're well. Hey, sorry we missed you last week. My wife and I were on vacation. And if you can't tell, I'm a little under the weather. Got a little bit of this chest stuff. This virus going around, not COVID, tested for it. Saw my doctor this week for my annual physical. Everything else is in good shape, but there's just a lot of crud going around. But hope you enjoyed the episode a couple weeks ago. And just remember, we'd love you to visit our website out at www.drleadershipresults.com. You can check out prior episodes. You can check out some of the other services I'm getting ready to launch up. Talk about a few things about that in a minute. And also you can leave feedback, you can contact us, but the most important thing is you can sign up for the Dr. Leadership membership out on Patreon and get early access to all this stuff. I'm recording this on Sunday. Members are hearing it today. Sunday, you don't get to hear it until next week, or I guess it's this week, but later this week. So as I said, we love hearing from you. You can also reach us on our email at our email address at drleadershipresults@gmail.com. Either way would be wonderful. Did make a big announcement to my company while I was away on vacation. I have pulled the trigger. I am retiring from corporate, international corporate world as of March 31st. I just want to say a big shout out to all the people that have I've been fortunate enough to be on teams with. It doesn't matter who the leader of the team was. We were on teams. And I feel very, very blessed. My wife and I are very, very fortunate. I am going to do some consulting and keep in the game a little bit. And you can see some of those things that are available, doing some voiceover work. Of course, the podcast is going to be important. Got to keep the brain sharp. But after 30 years of leadership in international corporate world and 36 years of work in 60-hour weeks, I turned 57 next week. I'm pulling the plug. 60-hour weeks, I'm the equivalent of like the age of 82. Had a couple people say, you're retiring so young. Yeah, you haven't worked hard enough if you think 57 is young. 60-hour weeks, I'm literally the equivalent of 82. Been working full-time since I was 18 years old. When I wasn't in a classroom, working full-time for Dad, very labor-intensive. Started with him when I was 10, cleaning toilets. Go back and listen to prior episodes, true stories. Driving semis at 16 years old, lifting and toting in the heat on roofs. I did it all, and I am very, very blessed to have done all those things. Taught me a lot about life, work ethic, etc. But then went in and did individual contributor for 6 years, and then decided to become a coach and a leader, and have been so blessed. I have so many friends. At least I consider them friends. Maybe they consider me just some chump that they passed in the night. But been so blessed. My wife, both of us. We're going to do some traveling. We're heading to Portugal next month. To take a look at some properties, and then we're going to go down. We rented a place in Arizona, going to check it out down there, see where our warmer weather destination will be someday. Not moving right away, but definitely going to enjoy life, travel, etc. But as I said, we were on a vacation last week, and we went on a cruise. We hadn't been on a cruise since 2019, and we said, let's get back out there and do one. So we did, and we flew from Des Moines to Chicago, and then Chicago to Lauderdale a day early so we don't miss the ship. And on the flight from Lauderdale down to Florida, I was in the aisle seat, my wife was in the middle seat. The window seat, here comes a guy coughing and sputtering and shoving lozenges in his mouth. And she turns to me and she goes, I'm going to get sick. And I go, oh, hold on. I got to put some bacitracin in our nostrils. I carry that with me. Was out of Zicam. I normally carry that too, but didn't have that. And he had a scarf over his mouth and he went to sleep. And God bless him, it wasn't with intent. But 2 days later on the ship, boom, she's got it. And then 6 days after that, boom, I got it. You're in a 250 square foot room. It's hard to not pass stuff back and forth. Aaron's about 90%, and I'm about 80%, but it's hit me a little harder in the nasal passages in my voice. So I apologize if I sound a little funky, but that's the case. Now, one of the things that this allowed us to do, which wasn't our goal, But we watched a little bit more TV on a cruise than we normally would. We got outside and we went to dinner, sat by ourselves, tried to protect others, actually canceled some plans with some people we met, didn't do our excursions, so we weren't around people. We were very cognizant of being good people. Tested, it was not COVID, just viral crap. And that time of year, it's cold season, right? Cold flu, COVID, RSV, check all the boxes. But what we did do is we watched a little bit more TV. And today's episode is about holding leaders accountable. And we reap what we sow. And the reason this has come up is I have not been so friggin' pissed off at inept leadership in my life as watching what transpired in California with the wildfires. This is not a political set of statements. This is about ineptness. Now, one side is far more inept than the other in all of this engagement. I think everyone knows where politically I stand. And, man, you reap what you sow. You voted these knuckleheads and you friggin' put this crap above the important things in life, like our own safety and the ability to have water to fight a fire. This is what happens. Wasn't a surprise. It just happens. So, as I said, watched a lot of TV in the stateroom, and this happening out in California, it's a friggin' travesty. And it's a complete failure, an abject failure of leadership and policy. It's a comeuppance. And excuse me, I'm going to cough a few times today. I apologize. I'm sure you've all been watching it too, right? And I promise you, I will try not to make this political. But it is clear, as I said before, one side of the aisle wants sound bites and to be perceived as if they're so caring for everybody and everything else, when in fact, it's all just a farce. They project, they say what others are doing by projecting what they're actually doing. They are a failure. It is a supermajority left government in California, governor, mayor, fire chief, assistant fire chief, the list goes on. This exposes why leadership is important. Policy is important. Today we're going to review some of the unbelievable missteps and lack of accountability which has led to potentially the most expensive disaster in U.S. history. Yes, it was a natural disaster, but one that is known to be coming every year for thousands of years. Couldn't have been avoided, but it could have been greatly diminished on what happened here. And I'm going to walk you through it. You don't have to like it, but you got to listen. Turn it off if you don't want to hear how bad this leadership was. If you just want to keep your head in the sand and go, but his hair looks good, I'm not for you. Let's face it, California is known as the land of the most progressive and, frankly, idiotic policies. And the hens have come home to roost. It's been not hysterical what happened, but just the hysteria has it's so awe-inspiring of just, no, wait a second, this is affecting us now. Hollywood got literally smoked in all of this. And suddenly they're calling for heads to roll. You voted this crap in. So let's set the stage here. Wildfires have been happening in California for tens, if not hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. History from the original inhabitants, the indigenous people, actually speaks of them. They did forest management. It's in the legacy text. It's in their history. They pass it down. No, they aren't getting worse. The winds aren't getting stronger. Demographically, more people are there. They've chosen to live there. More people live there, but it is not due to global warming or climate change. See, what happens is they got a whole lot of rain last year, which filled up the reservoirs, which they said climate change was going to cause to never be filled again. They were wrong. The rains came back, just like they do cyclically. Sometimes it's 7-8 years in between, like this was. Sometimes it's 1 year. Then they didn't have any rain. So what happened is the rain grew all the brush. And guess what they didn't do? No forest management. In 2017, the then presidential administration warned them about, because they had just had fires then. Clean up the brush. It's going to happen again. They didn't do anything. This annual sequence, again, tens of thousands, if not millions of years. What we have is a failure to provide by leadership the basics to protect life and property by the elitist, inept leadership. They want to push items that cause common sense to be pushed aside. And the wealthy and famous have continued to vote for this junk, but that was before they were affected themselves. A change is coming. If you haven't seen or listened to Adam Carolla's podcast, he gets a little strong in a couple areas, but go out and listen to it. He actually states, wait until these famous people that lost $20 million mansions, and they aren't all mansions. It's $5 million to have a 1,500 square foot place with these views. First of all, a fool and their money soon part company. But he stated now they have to try to interact with all of the zoning and all of the permitting to build these houses. It's going to take years, and they aren't going to like it. So now the Wall Street Journal's come out and said, hey, Governor Newsom, it's time to cut back on the regulations so we can rebuild California. You should have cut the regulations so it wasn't a problem to begin with on clear and brush, on having enough water, on not worrying about smelt. Now, it's not a big deal. That isn't the big impact in this, so I'm not going to go down the road that they tried to save a little fish and didn't divert enough water. They didn't. It's like one step in a series of 20 huge mistakes. But these regulations now, they want to, hey, take them off of everybody because the famous people are being affected. Again, they step in when the rich can go anywhere, live in their other house. Think of all the people that are just 9-to-5ers, 8-to-6ers that can't go home to a home. Let's just review the big F-ups here for a minute. So the budget for the fire department has been a big conversation. It was cut, and I'm not talking about the little $17 million that the mayor tries to put off and say, well, none of that money would have made a difference in this fight. She made that statement, then suddenly it comes out by left-leaning periodicals that Governor Newsom cut $100 million, and that the governor had asked for $45+ million more to be cut the week before the fires. And by the way, she said when she was elected as mayor that she would not make any foreign trips. She's been in office 20 months. She's made 5. Friggin' liar. So she says it wouldn't have impacted the fighting ability. But again, she asked for millions to be cut, none of which affected the DEI programs. Yes, really. They went more money in on DEI programs. I want everyone to be able to be hired for the job if they're fit and capable of doing it. We don't have a diversity, equity, and inclusion problem. We've got the left that is trying to portray the world of America as a terrible place, this racist-centric place, which it is not. If they would stop doing this crap, it would go back to what it was 20 years ago, which was a great place. How about knowing fires will come and you cut $100 million by the governor in funding? Yes, you really did that. He was out to dinners when others were locked in their homes, couldn't see their parents in retirement communities. He's not wearing the mask, and he's going out to $1,000 a plate dinners. Let them eat cake. Marie Antoinette. Look up the history books if you don't know what that means. Here's the big one. There was not enough water. Last February, they emptied one of the reservoirs. And Governor Newsom tried to play it off that it's not a state reservoir. The other side, Donald Trump, saying that they diverted the water, it wasn't water. He tried to say all the reservoirs are full, which 2 years ago he said they're never going to be full again because of global warming. They're full now. But what he didn't state is that this one reservoir that wasn't full, that wasn't state-sponsored or whatever his getting off on a technicality was, it was emptied. And guess what area that reservoir covered? Pacific Palisades, the biggest fire, where 8,000 of the 11 or 12,000 structures have burned down. So they emptied this reservoir that holds nearly 120 million gallons of water. Now, let me explain to you a couple things mathematically here. They had some storage tanks that they thought was sufficient to fight the fires. They keep saying, we've never seen an event like this. Well, you have to plan when you're fighting raging fires every year for the what ifs. So they had 2 million gallons available in these tanks. The fire hydrants went dry. Now, let me tell you a little bit about fire hydrants and fighting fires, because I looked it up for us. Fire hydrants, depending on what color they are, can pump between 500 gallons a minute to 1,500 gallons per minute. Let's use the middle, 1,000 gallons a minute. 1,000 gallons a minute will take 33 hours to empty all 2 million gallons. That's one hydrant. So divided over 100 hydrants in the Pacific Palisades, which I'm sure it was 500, it's 33 minutes of water if there's 100 hydrants fully open, pumping trucks. You're going to fight that fire with 30 minutes of water? So this reservoir that holds 120 million could pump full out for 18 hours if it was full. Now, they say that they couldn't fill that up because, get this, there's a tear in the cover that goes over it that they were scared could get something in the water where it wouldn't be able to be used to go through the filtration system to be drank. Well, let me tell you this. That was last February that they made that decision. You're telling me that you cannot fix a cover on a reservoir in 10 months? That should have been pump as much money as needed to fix it in 90 days because the fires are going to come. That's leadership. The fire department is led by a couple of ladies that you look on paper, they look like they're able to be in the job. The most important thing that's been talked about is their sexual life. I don't know, man. I don't pick a doctor by going, Dr. Sampson, somebody that likes, to sleep with boys and girls is going to do your brain surgery. I don't care. Can he do the surgery? That's what we need to get back to. You can't fix a torn cover with dedicated resources to ensure you have water for fire safety, but you can put out videos about DEI and sponsor that with extra funding. You can't, when you don't care, fill the reservoir. They say it needed fixed, so it needed to be used for drinking water. It wouldn't have issues. Here's an idea. If you didn't need it filled to meet the drinking water needs of the community, why are you worrying about it as a drinking water resource? Use water from other reservoirs for drinking water until that thing gets fixed. But fill the reservoir up before fire season. Call a boiling ban if you have to. People would be glad to be boiling their drinking water or using gallons picked up at the supermarket if they still had a home standing, if their loved ones weren't dead. Better yet, fix the tear in 6 months. This is a joke of leadership. You can want and hope for all this rose petals and unicorn and rainbow world, but unfortunately, it isn't real. You have to pick leaders that make hard decisions. You have to pick leaders that do the good for the most, not the most for the fewest. Their notification systems failed or sent bad messaging respectfully. They put people into panic multiple times because the text was going out to everybody, run from your homes. They didn't have police on the street corners when they said all of Pacific Palisades has got to empty out to handle traffic. So thousands of cars were just abandoned and people ran away. It's like a bad movie. And the cars were destroyed. And then the fire trucks that could get water couldn't get to the fire. This is the epitome of absolute disaster in leadership. They didn't pre-position equipment, at least not at adequate levels. They pre-positioned 120 engines. You know that there's thousands of pieces of equipment, including hundreds of engines, that are sitting in a big parking lot that they don't have enough budget in the fire department to fix? Fire season is coming. Fix the fire engines. Yes, really. See, when you vote for inept people because you make your decisions based on false feelings and think this is like picking the high school prom king selection, you get these results. I've said this to my kids, and they listen. Use your head, not your heart, in some of this stuff. We can be empathic, but we got to be capable. We got to be able to protect our citizens. Now, a couple weeks ago, 4 or 5 episodes ago, we discussed merit as the most important part of who to select for roles, especially leadership. I do not care that the fire chief and the assistant fire chief are lesbians. It's completely irrelevant. Love who you want. I don't care. All I want is a fire person to be able to do the job. Can they do the job? Evidently not. The assistant chief, and some of you probably haven't seen this because omittance is false information. Everybody's like, oh, it's misinformation this coming from the right. It's misinformation this if you watch Fox. It's misinformation if you read the New York Post. They're covering the stories. If you don't like what the story says, that's not misinformation. But if your sources if you aren't aware of all these things that we're talking about, you are being misinformed by the omittance of data and truth. The assistant fire chief, yes, this is real, what I'm about to say. She was on camera for a video when they were fluffing up DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, because she's a lesbian. She's not a fit one, significantly overweight. And she states, when they say, are you concerned? First of all, they said, people want to see people that are like them rescuing them. I'll tell you this, if I'm in a burning house, I don't give a shit if you got 2 heads and crossed eyes. I don't care what color you are. Can you lift me up and get me out of the fire? So they asked her this question. What do you say to people that are concerned that you can't lift a man up and get him out of the burning building? She says, not verbatim, but she says, it's his own fault for being in a fire. So do we now not expect police to take on a hostage situation because it's the hostage's own fault for being in the bank that got robbed? Do we not pursue and try to stop traffic deaths by someone that's running from the law because the other people on the freeway got their own asses in that situation? This is how stupid these leaders are. And California voted for the people in office that then put these people in these positions that aren't electable. You reap what you sow. I hate to say it, but it's a disaster. What if your surgeon couldn't do a bypass surgery? Can they say it's the woman's fault for eating saturated fats? See, start connecting the dots, folks. Leadership matters. I don't need, when I was a leader, I liked to be liked, but I didn't need to be liked. I made a lot of decisions that a lot of people didn't like. It was in the best interest of the customer, the company, and the people, the bigger number of people. I've deselected people, I've done reductions in force, and I've attained plan all the time because the teams were strong. We weeded out the weak. We need the weak out of the herd of leadership. Not saying get rid of weak people. Don't go down that road. I don't need any emails. But we need to make sure that our leaders are strong people. Strong leaders make good times. Good times make weak leaders the last 4 years. Weak leaders make bad times. Here comes round 2 of the Trump doctrine, and he's going to have to fix a bunch of stuff again, and everybody's going to complain that it's not fast enough. It's your own fault. I'm not standing here going MAGA this, MAGA that. I'm just saying we need people, and he's putting people in roles that are going to get some shit done. Congress is shaken. That's a good sign. You can't fix stupid. Oh, my goodness gracious. So, this is a whole list of just insanity. The insanity of all of this is going to, I hope, finally bring the adults back to in charge. These weak leaders are leading to the downfalls that we are facing. How come? Let's just talk about these same leaders a couple more times. Homelessness, There's 185,000 homeless in California that they can document. That number was 130,000 5 years ago. They spent $24 billion on the homeless problem, patting each other's back pockets. Half of it's missing, spent on BS friggin' nonprofits that are run by their friends and the friggin' people that they hang out with at their country clubs. And the homeless population went up by almost 40%. They spent $24 billion to get it worse. You know what you could do? I've done the math. I used to be a general contractor. I built $1 million homes. I understand construction. I understand the expense of construction. I've built 11 homes, 8 of which for myself. I get it. I am an informed advisor here. You know what you can do with that $24 billion? Remove some of the regulations, and you can build 68,000 three-bedroom apartments. 68,000 three-bedroom apartments. If you put one person in each bedroom, that's over the 185,000 homeless people. Everybody gets a brand new apartment. See, a lot of the homeless are families. You're putting families in apartments. $24 billion, they didn't accomplish anything. Excuse me. They've spent $15 billion in this same area on a high-speed rail system. They don't have a mile of rail built in 15 years. We passed legislation by the administration that is in office until Monday the 20th. This is being recorded on Sunday until noon tomorrow. They approved $7.5 billion to build charging stations for the electrification of our automobile industry. They've built less than a dozen in 3 years. $7.5 billion. A general contractor, somebody from the construction business, maybe somebody like Donald Trump, maybe somebody like Elon Musk, maybe somebody like, hire D.R. Horton to do it. They could build 10,000 electric stations in 3.5 years. Get the regulations out of the way. If this is what we need to do, then make it happen. They can't tell you where the money went. The Pentagon can't tell you where they spent $680 billion last year. They failed another audit. That doesn't mean we wasted the money, they say. You can't tell me where it went? Show me the checks that were written to the friggin' aircraft carrier manufacturer. Show me how much you sent to the munition manufacturers. You can't add it up to be within spitting distance of $680 billion. Show me where you spent $620 billion. I'll give you $60 billion that you friggin' flushed. They can't do that. The government is not the answer. Small government, less regulation, allow personal freedoms and personal innovation and our own wise people to fix these problems. The government cannot do it. The ineptness is unbelievable. These are just some of the examples. There's thousands of them. Millions upon millions of government employees working from home, 2 hours a day. Now there's thousands that are working full days. I know some of them. But we got to just open our eyes, and we got to take some things on here, folks. Weak leaders are leading to our downfall. I don't need to be popular or the most, I don't, let me say it this way. I don't need my leaders to be eloquent talkers. I don't need them to be the best looking. I don't need them to have the best TikTok following and the Instagram following. What I need are results. We need leaders that deliver the goods. Guess what happens in the real world? In my world, you don't deliver the goods, you're put on a performance improvement program. You don't meet the performance improvement program, you're walked out the door and we give someone else a shot. We give you all the support you need. The U.S. government, the United States, is the biggest corporation in the world. It is the biggest business in the world. We need business people running it. These people that are career politicians could not succeed on their own in the market, vast majority. Most of the right side of the aisle are successful business people that have given up their own fortunes to try to help. There's losers on both sides. I'm not being naive to it. But this friggin' wackadoodle progressive regime crap has got to go. Leadership matters. Results matter. The last 4 years have been an utter disaster. And I don't even blame the current president. He's been gone for years. He has been unsuccessful in everything he's ever done. He's been on the wrong side of every foreign policy deal he's ever done. It's documented. Go look at it. This isn't me just ranting. This is me stating the fact, hitting you in the eye, thumping you in the nose. Pay attention. The country has woken up, I believe. I do believe that the election in November is demanding change. Time to make this country what it once was and can be again. That's awesome. Be a leader. Keep this shit up. Be a leader. Fix problems. Be a leader. Be awesome. Talk next week.